Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is actually the first Minecraft series that I did on a modded world in a mod pack called Diseasecraft. I saw it on the Forge network, and I saw that it was a pretty cool, pretty highly rated zombie survival pack, so I decided to play it and record it and see how it was. So the first thing I did when I actually entered into the world is I spawned in the suburbs, which is going to be the first district that you actually spawn into in this game. So I started looting one of the buildings. I was destroying some chests because I know getting some chests and stuff is going to be good for survival. So I looked through the quest book and saw that there were a bunch of tasks that I actually needed to do in the suburbs before I could really explore anywhere else. After I was exploring around, I got a lot of different items, and I realized that for the first day, the zombies actually don't come after me. They don't spawn at all. So I really just spent that day looking through my quest logs, checking off anything that's super easy. But as you can see here, there's a bunch of different districts that I'll have to explore during my 100 days. And of course, there's different ammos, different guns, vehicles, and other things that are introduced as part of this mod pack that you can find through exploring around. Now, I'm not quite at that stage yet, but there's a bunch of different collectibles, and of course, checking everything off is definitely what you want to be doing. Now, when nighttime came around, I did end up finding a small little shack on the outside of the suburbs that I decided to set myself down for the first few days. This shack actually didn't provide as much of a base as I really wanted it to, but it had a campfire outside which helped to mitigate some of the temperature loss from night. As you can see here, it's filled with dirt and just all kinds of grime and stuff like that. But as morning came around, the first few zombies started to invade, and immediately my first thought was, I need to set up a wall. I need to actually defend my base. So I cleared out the few first zombies, and got my Monster Hunter achievement there, and I realized this is going to be a lot more dangerous than I suspected being on the outside of town. But as I was exploring, trying to figure out the parkour system that's introduced, this baby zombie actually started coming after me. And right there, you hear that sound? That was the first time I actually ended up getting infected by the virus in this, which every single hit while you're unarmored, and even in some cases when you are fully armored, you have a small chance to actually get infected by the zombies. So I had 6 minutes until the infection progressed to its second stage, so I had to figure out a way of curing that. But I started getting rid of some of all the zombie spawners, and I saw in the book that there's a cure that you can find. So I was reading through here, and it seems that the only way to cure the infection is to actually eat golden apples, which you cannot craft in this mod pack. You actually have to just find them in medical facilities or other things like that. Now, later in the game, you can craft them with something called Formula X, but unbeknownst to me, I actually did not realize that this mod pack is not finished, so I wasn't able to craft those later on. But as you can see here, I'm actually clearing out the clinic, which is going to be the first real medical facility that you find in the suburbs. It's called the Polyclinic, but the first thing you have to do is you actually have to kill all these highlighted zombies in order to loot anything, because you cannot loot chests until you've defeated the horde around the building. So I started clearing out some of those zombies, and of course trying not to get bit anymore. As I cleared everything out, you can see here, I'm starting to loot the place, and I find myself a golden apple, as well as a crystal heart container, which increases your maximum life. But I go ahead and I eat the golden apple, which cures me of the infection, and it actually gives me infection immunity for 2 minutes, as well as a regeneration stat. Now in my base, I started digging a mine shaft, because I thought usually in typical Minecraft, you want to make a quick access down into a mine in order to get things like metal, coal, diamonds, things like that. So I started exploring the cave systems that are actually underneath everything. Little did I really know at this point, you can kind of find everything that you need in the buildings. You don't actually need to go mining in this mod pack very much. Now, I didn't know this at the time, so I was exploring, and I ended up finding a large amount of spiders underground, which is what you'd usually assume in real life. So I wasn't too worried about that. I did, however, find a railroad access area, And the railroad access, from what I could see, actually connects all the different districts and biomes. So I had to clear out a little bit of the zombies that were staying down there. But as you can see, it's just straight tunnels for miles and miles on end. And that's usually what I use to actually traverse in between all the different districts, was this series of suburb tunnels. Now, as you can see, my base is getting a little bit more established. I finally built that wall. I've got a little bit of a farm growing with some hempen seeds, but this was only around like day 10 or 15. It wasn't really anything very far. I got myself a few smelters and I started exploring a few of the other places, such as this police office. So, again, this is another horde building. I had to clear out all of the highlighted zombies, but I'm using some baseball bats that I actually crafted because they're super simple and cheap to make. I thought, well, police station probably has guns in it, so I should check that out. And as I found, yes, it does in fact have a pistol that I looted from one of the cabinets inside. Now, my inventory is getting quite hectic and quite stored, but I actually see a name tag through the floor of Emily Carter, which is another one of the survivors that you can actually find in this mod pack. So I keep looting, keep doing my usual thing, and I realize that there's a lot of different things that you can find in these areas, such as armor, bullets, gunpowder, and even different melee weapons that spawn specific to the area. So as I'm exploring and everything, I'm just trying to get everything that I can from these lockers. Of course, you don't want to leave any stone unturned. But of course, my inventory becomes a massive problem around these times. Usually you'd hope to have like a bunch of chests and a sorting system, but I didn't have that established at this point. So I was just kind of trying to find whatever I needed and was most valuable at the time. I did have a backpack, which was another mod, but as you can see, even that was completely full. I did find a few golden apples, I've got canned food, a bunch of leather tunics and jackets, and by the time I actually get down to Emily Carter, I start talking with her. She basically, mainly enough, summed up the fact that she had been stuck down here for a long while and that she had known a bunch of other survivors that were around. However, her radio had been working. So when she was finding out about the cure, which I was trying to figure out about mostly, she had no information that she could really offer. All she knew is that some of the other districts may have more shipments of the cure that were not given to the suburbs. So after a while of talking with her, I looked into my journal and I found that there were actually a bunch of different survivors that I can find, and that a survivor compass is something that you can find that will point you in the direction of different people. So once I finish up talking with her, I actually started heading out and looking for these survivors. The other person that I needed to find was somebody called the Old Veteran, who actually stands in one of the old abandoned houses. Now I did a few quests for her as well, got a little bit of resources from her, and I actually was able to trade with her as well after I was done completing all of her quests, which is a common thing that you'll actually find with a lot of these survivors, is that once you do their quests, they will either give you a bunch of stuff or you can trade with them via money that you actually find laying around. The zombies don't drop the money, unfortunately. However, you can find it by looting saves, you can find it by looting like bedside cabinets and drawers and other things like that. And it really is just the main value system for buying things from all the different survivors. So I end up actually using a lot of that money, and it ends up being a problem a lot later because the money system actually tends to bog down your inventory with dollar bills because they only come in stacks of 64. And if you don't have a backpack with multiple stacks of 64, it's really hard to actually keep them all contained. Now you can craft them into money blocks and high value money blocks, but you have to actually have a crafting table with that, and you have to have it all set up. So it's a little bit later down the line when I actually figure out that I can turn all of my money into block form so it doesn't take up as much space. But one of the biggest things that I actually noticed about this mod pack is that it is very well developed. It's very easy and intuitive to understand. However, the inventory system is quite stressful. You have to keep track of a lot of different things, and you actually have to manage your inventory almost every single second that you're looting. It feels like everything is super valuable, and if you pass anything up, you may look down the road and say, oh shoot, I shouldn't have passed that up. But all things considered, you can loot whatever you need from the different districts. There's no reason to really keep anything on you specifically, unless you really are looking to build a base, which is usually what I would do in standard vanilla Minecraft, is just grab everything that's valuable and store it in a big vault or base. Now, as you can see here, I'm still talking with Emily Carter, and we're still going over some stuff. If you would like to read it, you are free to do so, as I am as well. I did also live stream this entire series over on twitch.tv/Showtime Central. So if you want to check me out there, you certainly can. I stream usually every Wednesday and Sunday. But as you can see here, I finally finished talking with her, and I say, do you have anything to trade? And this is where you can see kind of that money system. You can see the blocks there where you can get different pistols from her. You can spend them to get SMG part or blueprints and pistol blueprints, as well as trading a bunch of your raw materials such as leather, wool, and bone meal for money as well, of course. But these pistols were a little bit better than the ones that I had at the time. Of course, I was just carrying with me a Glock, which uses standard 9mm ammo. It's not very great, but it is a very reliable pistol, and it's something that I would manage to find within the police department. So that's what I tend to use for quite a while. Now you can see me wielding it there. It's a really cool texture. But eventually, the first Horde night ended up happening. And this was when the sun started to go down, everything started to turn red, and I noticed this massive swarm of zombies coming my way. Now, for the first Horde nights, there wasn't really a whole lot of zombies, I'll be honest, but they do aggro and get a whole hell of a lot faster when you fire your weapon. So they just kind of swarmed over me here, and I'm lucky I actually didn't get infected with all my armor and stuff on. But the first Horde night was never really an issue, so I just gunned them down and made my way out. But I have to be much more careful about those in the future. They do get a whole hell of a lot harder later down the line. So I scoop up all the ammo that they drop, I go to another clinic where I find a bunch more stuff, and of course I'm just looting everything that I can, as I said. Getting everything that's valuable, including all the thermal thread, so that I can keep myself resistant from heat and cold, because that's going to be very necessary later down the line. The heat system and the temperature system is usually pretty annoying in base Minecraft, but in this, it actually gives you a lot of resources to avoid that. Eventually, I do find the suburb house where it is boarded up, and there's a bunch of other things that are covering the inside that look like a survivor's base. So I cut my way through the wooden barricades, and I actually do figure out that this is the location of the old veteran, one of those other survivors that I told you about. Now, this had been like day 20 or 25, somewhere in that range. After a while, I stopped kind of keeping track of the days, and in the end, when I was coming up on day 100 was when I was paying a little bit more attention to it. But in the earlier days, I was just trying to get as much of my resources together as I could. Of course, there you saw there was an upgrade table, but you aren't really going to need an upgrade table until much later down the line. Now, I do see that there is also barbed wire in this, which I did not know about beforehand, but I realized later down the line that you can craft it into a type of cobweb that deals damage to enemies. So you can see here I've got Gramps Bartley, who's the old veteran, and I start talking with him as well. Of course, you are free to read along if you would like. I am, again, doing this on stream, so I will shut up and let you read it for the time being. After a while of me talking with Gramps Bartley, it really kind of came down to the fact that he didn't really know anything of value. And eventually I did actually find these shulker shells that I knew I could craft into shulker boxes, and they would greatly help clean up my inventory. So I got as many of the shulker shells as I possibly could, as well as all the other end materials. And the nether materials as well. The end and nether are actually not even in this game. In the mod pack, it completely removes the nether and completely removes the other dimensions because it's trying to stay a little bit more realistic. But you can see here my inventory was a complete and utter disaster. I was trying to find as much stuff as I could that would be useful for me, and I ended up really just bogging everything down. So these shulker boxes were immensely helpful. And you'll see a little bit later, I actually ended up using these shulker boxes for a good long while. I ended up keeping them on my person for a long time, and it ended up being my main source of storage for the 100 days until closer to the end. But you can see me, I'm just looking for the best thing to get rid of at the time, because I know that I have to keep these items on me. Of course, it has different types of engineering sources as well, such as the Create mod as well as Immersive Engineering. So if you're a fan of those mods, you can certainly use those. And as you can see here, now I am just organizing up all of my inventory. Now I'm going to speed this section up so you don't have to watch it, but you can see just how much time it really takes in order to organize everything in this mod pack. You can see I've got stacks of money, I've got batteries that aren't charged, I've got just so much stuff. So I'm going to give you a time lapse here about how long it takes for me to organize just everything that I have. And you can see just how long it takes. This is no fault on the mod, or the mod pack, I guess, itself. It's just the fact that storage and organization is so immensely useful in these types of explore everything mod packs. So I'm going to speed it up here so you can watch and see just how long it takes. After a while of me finally clearing up all of my storage, I ended up taking a gander down some of the underground railroads to another district. Now I had seen that there is this radar that you can actually use to find different types of buildings, so I set it to, I believe it was the office district, which I thought was going to be the best source of new resources. But the second I entered, I realized that it is extremely hot in this area. I did not have the thermal protection in order to prevent myself from overheating. So you can see my thermometer in the bottom left there immediately started going up past the 30 degrees mark. Now I don't know if that's 30 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit, but it's 30 units of heat, I guess. And anything above that will start causing the character to overheat, which will drain your water faster, and eventually it will even burn you alive. So you have to make sure that you have cool objects on you, like this soul torch. I end up putting that in my offhand, which does lower my temperature a little bit, but I do need to make sure that I get the thermal protection in order to actually effectively explore these different areas. And that does actually end up being a problem later on. As you can see here, I finally enter into the office district and start exploring. At least it recognizes it underground. And I see that there's some flames or smoke dropping from the ceiling, and at first it really confused me as to what's going on. I thought at first that I was like underneath a volcano or something like that. So I'm not sure what was happening there, and I was just kind of confused, but eventually I do figure out what's causing that. Now I start clearing out some of the zombies because I do know that I need to explore and I need to get to one of the train stations. But I see there that there's actually creatures on the ceiling dropping all that smoke and that fire. So I start taking those guys out, trying not to step on any of the flames or anything like that. And eventually I just kind of ignore them for the time being. But that's not the only thing that I see, because there's new zombies that actually spawn in these districts, such as these guys. Zombies with like lightning rods sticking out of their head. Now these guys jump at you and just smack against you, and they mainly just do a bunch of damage to your armor. They don't do a huge amount of actual HP damage, but they do a ton to your armor. And of course there's the infected military zombies as well, which I end up coming across, and these guys are much tankier than the others. They have 10 bars of actual shielding, and they have like 50 HP or something crazy like that. So eventually I pull up my gun and I realize that this is going to be something where I'm going to start needing to use a weapon. Because if these guys are just jumping into me constantly, I've got to take them out from afar. And you can see there, I'm actually down to one of my single bars of HP because I'm taking so much damage, and I'm not even in the office district yet. That's why this mod pack is so dangerous and so deadly. You have to make sure that you're fully equipped for wherever you're going at all times. Luckily for me, because I've looted a bunch of different areas and clinics, I can actually just start chugging down a lot of my bandages and my health pots. So I just spend some time to heal myself up, because I know this is going to be one hell of a journey going forward. I do end up finding a whole lot of stuff in the office district, but all things considered, I know that I'm not equipped for it. So I kind of take the risk and I go up just to see what I can find, so I can get out of there as soon as I can and get back to my original base. Which I do eventually down the line end up moving, because I realize on the outskirts of the suburbs, a lot of zombies tend to spawn in the tall grass. So I actually ended up moving my base a little bit later, around the day 40 or 45-ish, somewhere in that time. But as you can see here, I finally find the suburb, or the station, the subway station. This is where you can find the stairs that lead up to the office district, and where I first find my way out. So I'm going to be climbing up these stairs here, and of course I'm going to start using my gun, because I noticed that these guys don't actually speed up when I use it. Probably because they jump at you and everything like that, and they don't want you to, you know, I guess, get damaged by it. So as I crest out of the top of the train station, I notice immediately that it is much hotter up here than it is down below. I jump into the water to try to cool myself off, which doesn't really do a whole lot to actually help, and I realize immediately that this is going to be an issue going forward. It's just the heat of everything. But I try to mitigate it as best I can by holding my torch, and I find myself on the outskirts of the city during night, where I'm just trying to sneak around. Again, still trying to get used to the whole parkour thing that's part of this mod, and eventually I realized that you could jump up there, but this is actually my first death, going up against this raider. Now let me rewind there and just show you, look at the damage that this guy does to me. Look at how quickly he chunks down my health, like good lord. That was my first official death of the playthrough. But as you can see here, I actually end up getting into one of the office buildings, and I'm looting one of the higher buildings, and I find an accessory that actually makes all of my weapons deal fire damage.
They are on fire. Is that going to light?
You can see I'm actually very skeptical over whether I will be lit on fire by zombies hitting me while they're on fire, because usually that's how it works in standard Minecraft. This is where I find a bunch of diamonds and a bunch of other very rare and useful items. So I'm very happy to loot this area. Eventually, I do end up finding out that yes, in fact, there is a chance that these zombies will light you on fire if they hit you, if they are on fire. So I end up taking off that accessory that actually makes it, makes me light the zombies on fire. But of course, you can see here, organizing my inventory again is just a pain in the ass. But I'm finding all these accessories, and they really make a difference in the game. If you can find the accessories early, they will make your journey a whole hell of a lot quicker and faster and way smoother. Some of them are actually kind of crazy. I got one a little bit later that increased all of my stats by like 50% and made it so I'm running at like almost double speed. It made all my armor and HP almost double. It was crazy strong. But I found that near the tail end of the series, so this was around like day, I'd say 60 or 70, 75, somewhere in that range. But you can see there, it does set me on fire, so I have to be very wary of that. But as I'm exploring, I'm just trying to keep myself alert, keep myself steady, and I end up making a grave mistake right there. And you can see my mistake right there.
Oh my god.
Now the thing is, I was probably a good 30 floors up from the ground when that dog approached, so you can't really blame me. But here's my second death there. I did end up getting hit by one of those things as it fell from the ceiling, and of course you can see my disappointment there. I'm gonna have to run all the way back and grab my stuff,
I'll be right back.
which I do eventually do.
Okay.
And you can see just the scale and size of these buildings. I mean, the exploring in this mod is absolutely fantastic. If you really want to just have a standard zombie, super survival, just loot everything you come across experience, this mod pack is definitely for you. So eventually here you can see that I'm building up my base. I'm finally starting to work with the create mod. I've made a few water wheels in this warehouse that I've built, and you can see just all the different things that I've looted. So I end up putting up barbed wire fences. I end up getting an actual storage system set up with the immersive engineering mod and the, I think it's sophisticated storage mod as well. And I end up actually being able to store just everything that I can within this grid, which makes things so much easier and so much simpler. I even find a portable grid where I can load everything into as well. So you can see here I transfer everything from my inventory in my backpack, and it all sorts itself automatically within this storage. And I will tell you, it is a absolute lifesaver in this mod pack. If you're playing this mod pack and you don't have one of these things set up as soon as possible, you are just causing yourself a world of problems. So this is definitely something that I would 100% recommend getting as soon as possible. You can even see it adds things over stacks of 65. But you can see here I eventually take out the portable grid, and I find that I can power it with the thermoelectric generator that I actually have set up right in front. So you can see there it's charging with KFEs, whatever that standard of energy is called. And you can see here, it takes me a little bit to actually figure out how the thing works, but I realize a little bit later that I can put a storage disk in the top right section there, and I end up finding out that I can just carry 16,000 units of storage.
16K items.
So that is a game changer, but that's around the 80 to 90 day mark. Now, one of the things I wanted to do for my 100 days is actually to invade this casino, because I wanted to end up setting up my base in the casino. But being as it's a horde base and in a district that I am much less equipped for, right around day 95 I go to invade it and realize that I am way over my head for this area. It is nighttime and the area is kind of cooling down, but these massive lumbering zombies start coming after me, and I am just not equipped for this. So I'll just let you see my real live reaction to this and how it's going.
Okay. Yep. Why am I cold? This area is supposed to be excruciatingly hot. Yeah! Yep. Okay. Another way. Why is that guy so healthy? I do not have. I do not have the firepower for this. I don't have the firepower for this, and I'm out of bullets. Why am I so fucking cold?
Oh my god. Oh my god. And in the end, I end up freezing to death in the bottom of the basement. Now, for the last 5 days of my journey, I didn't really do anything of note. I just kind of explored around my base and tried to set everything up near the end. But all things considered, this was a little bit of a shorter video on the term of 100-day challenges that you'll usually find on YouTube, but I hope you enjoyed anyway. Now, if you want to see more of this, feel free to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing a little bit more of these if this video does pretty well. I do, again, stream live on Twitch, usually Wednesdays and Sundays, so feel free to come by and check me out there as well for other games that I play on this channel. I hope you have a good rest of your day or night, whichever you are in, and I will see you all again later. This is Showtime, signing out for the day.